So before we start, apparently when I was gonna be watching this video, and you might have saw a community post earlier if you're following the channel, um, new episodes released. Thanks Disney. I was about to take a break and then maybe hopefully I can just watch it later, but apparently you guys just decide to release them, so that's great, I guess. But it is good since because it's more miraculous and it is the missing episodes. But yeah, but what are we doing today? I'm reviewing episode 15, which is still basically the latest episode of Miraculous because it's basically the very last episode of Miraculous that it is currently out now. Yeah, so those episodes in between, I'll review them soon. And by the time this video is released, I think just expect the next 2 days to be another Miraculous episode, but we're gonna go backwards, and I think it'll be episode 6 that we'll be reviewing. So yeah, I'm excited. And for this episode, it's episode 15, as I said before, and let's begin. I also do apologize if I do sound a bit too loud. I'll try to lower the volume for you guys, and maybe for possible background noises, possibly. Either way, we do start off with Nathaniel's house, and we finally get to see his house. There's his mother on the right and father on the left. They look really normal, to say the least. So yeah, and right here, the father's reading his comic book, the one that he actually, in this episode, he made with Mark. So Nathaniel and Mark, they made this little comic book. And if you remember, Nathaniel's the one who's drawing and Mark's the one who's writing. But this episode basically focuses around Nathaniel here. The father does like it, but currently so far in terms of the story, he does have one recommendation, that the hero should have some sort of like love triangle with the villain. And Nathaniel's like, why should we? The person is the villain, but he just makes it sound, a bit more like a uniqueness to it. But it's also because that he's trying to impress, or at least trying to make sure that the comic impresses the mother. The mother is super strict on what she likes or finds interesting, and comic books are not that interesting. Unfortunately, the mother, in terms of context, has been reading a lot of stories that end basically the exact same way, no matter what subject. So the father is trying to put a spin to it, but Nathaniel doesn't exactly like it, and he doesn't know if Mark likes it. Of course, the mother is just saying that's BS. Comics do not go into the same ranks as any other types of art, like paintings or infrastructure or stuff like that. So the mother is basically an artist, and is also basically an architecture person. So in her own career, she makes architecture, which makes sense. And of course, her architecture is considered art to a lot of people. But she thinks comics are not really, because it's just child's play, not true art. The father doesn't exactly believe this, but he's technically doing a double standard. In a way, he's trying to impress, but not trying to hurt Nathaniel, because he does want Nathaniel to, go for his dreams. And then that's technically where he actually gave the suggestion to actually put another detail in. But later in the episode, Nathaniel doesn't exactly do that. And of course, we go to Mark. Mark is actually having a very good time with his parents. So again, he's the writer of the story, and the parents really do like it because it came from the heart. That's kind of about it. And I know listen, we're not even close. I mean, we are getting close to the intro, but I have not go past the intro theme song yet. Now, there's nothing special about it, but this intro is technically the most longer of any of the other episodes currently that I watched for Miraculous, and that is because there's a lot of things packed in there that I want to talk about, but it's mostly on Nathaniel's side. And I think that's kind of about it, because throughout the rest of this, and if you read the description, I guess, yeah, I do think this is a very good episode, but the best episode, and it's technically the gayest. is not really outstated, and the writing for it is really good. It's not in your face like most Disney shows would be. It is actually it's just alluding to it, but never says outright. It's basically there in context clues, and basically the vibe of the episode is good that it's not in your face. There's technically one time, but it's kind of deserved. We'll get to it when we get there. But yeah, this review is going to be short because I don't know what else to actually say other than this happened and this happened. Because for the most part, I kind of just said it. It is a very good episode, and the little thing I gave in the intro is technically what it is. There's a lot of things, so the journey is good, and we got the little summary. I gave you guys summary already, so there's no real interesting lore bits here or there. It is just a very good story of quote unquote two friends just trying to help each other out, and a person who's basically trying to prove himself to his family. Season 6 seems to be a trending theme on terms of family. That's what I'm getting. And technically we did get that in season 5, but season 6 is actually doing a good job. Instead of being focusedly just on Adrian, it's now focusing on the other people. And because I got a little spoiled with the thumbnails from the previous episodes that were just released, Adrian as well, possibly. But we did hear going back to Marinette's house, and she's sick. And the thing is that I'm a little uncomfortable with Marinette being sick. It's not her being sick that is what's causing me problems here. If you see a little green. Yeah, so apparently they put so much fluidity with the snot. I thought Disney would not. I thought Nickelodeon would be the one who would do this because they're mostly prone for it. But I'm surprised that first off, green snot usually is always clear snot or white snot. But since it's 3D, I guess they have to do green, which is good as not any other color, I guess. But green is just disgusting. And apparently this is where all the animation, maybe this episode had extra money in the animation department, and the green snot is the thing that has the most physics. I don't know why. It's super fluid, and it's disgusting. I don't know why. I don't know why. Whoever chose this for the green snot, I don't know. And the green snot appears multiple times in the episode because Marinette is there, but Marinette's not even the main focus, basically. Yeah, so the snot is just so much. I don't know. I just don't know. So we did get back to school. Nathaniel and Mark were just meeting up for their story. And then Marinette's like, oh, you guys finished the story? And everybody just did you finish the story? Because here's the thing. The whole school kind of knows about the story. They loved the first chapter. And apparently this is technically the next installment, the sequel. And that's actually pretty nice. And now I remember right now that the first chapter that they did was basically the chapter that they actually talked about in seasons 4 or 5. I believe it's 5, somewhere in the middle, which is actually a very good callback. So we're just having a sequel story here, and it seems like it's really good. But here, Nathaniel is a bit scared to show it because of what his parents say. There was some more details here and there, and I'll get to it at the end because it's not too important currently right now, because it has the more snot in it. But the gag for Marinette is actually pretty funny. We'll get to it when we get there. But yeah, Nathaniel is actually showing his Kwame the story, and Kwame really loves the story, but she knows it's going to be very hard to draw it because it seems like it's just, you cannot really draw it. You cannot just, the words are enough. There's too much feeling into it. But Nathaniel's going to try his best. Yeah. So this is basically Nathaniel's way of drawing. Yeah, Nathaniel's drawing has technically gotten better from the previous time, but you can tell that this is more Disney-fied than previous animation team. The previous animation team made it more in line with comic book / manga. Now, it just seems like a Disney storybook, which, to be honest, with the theming for what they do for this story is actually not too bad. I'm alluding to something. Of course, the mother found later, this is the next day, Mark was also there. So the mother was just like, what are you two doing? You better not be like, drawing comics again, Nathaniel. And Mark defends Nathaniel that they were just doing schoolwork. And she's like, oh, good. You guys are being serious. And for Nathaniel, it's just, for once, he's serious in something. But you better, get ready for school. Because it's almost school. I will say this. This is where basically the Marinette plotline really goes to, because Marinette really has no story other than the ending where Ladybug saves the day. Yeah, Ladybug saves the day in this one, but it makes more sense. But she's not the main focus. But Adrian does walk up to her, because if something stinks again, she's like, oh yeah, something that's smelly, like a cheese and old sock. Adrian, I didn't have the screenshot for it, but Adrian did sniff himself just in case, but now he's questioning. This scene, Nathaniel is actually ready to actually print it, and while Mark knows the situation in Nathaniel's family right now and his passion, Mark did say that Nathaniel could change his mind, because he understands what Mark wanted the previous day. But Nathaniel's like, no, we should do it. Everybody should know our story. Pulling back here, about the smell again, Adrian thinks that Plague was the one who's smelly. Now, Plague's like, yeah, to be honest, the other times before today, that was me. I was the stinky guy, but today I wasn't. So after that, Adrian was like, so do I smell like cheese? And Plague was like, I wish. Back at home, apparently Mark forgot the script. The mother or the father found the script in Nathaniel's room, and they were kind of upset. Mostly the mother. The father tried to defend, but basically no dice, which is a little unfortunate. And then the mother got into a rant about all this, and this story, or if you're gonna draw it, it's not true art. It should just be a thing for a regular novel. No art should not, be conflicted with books and stuff. And saying that Nathaniel should be doing something else with his artistic career and talent instead of just going to the comic book business or stuff like that. And the father did warn him about this, which is true, but there's a running theme where it's basically almost the mother is being the douche and the father is just trying their best but cannot really, because that I think is a trope. I think it's just a family trope, honestly, but it's fine for this, because unlike who was it? I remember it was one parent. I don't remember. Oh yeah, Sublime. No, that's not her name. God, the one forgot her name. Is the one who has the prosthetic legs. I forgot. Nathaniel being heartbroken, he actually ran away from home after the parents left. But he actually ran not away from home exactly, but back to the school. And he's going to destroy the comics. So he transforms and he destroys them. Now, earlier before this scene, he did go to Marinette because, well, he forgot that Marinette has the copy of it, but Marinette wants to keep it, and Marinette promises that she'll not show it to anybody, and then suddenly it was like, okay. And then, after Marinette, he talks to Mark about it. Mark was confused about this 360 again, and they had a little talk about it, but Nathaniel's like, it's better if you actually find another illustrator. To be honest with the story, the story is fine because it is all related, and it's good it's not in your face, but just visuals like this kind of alludes to something even more. And I really like it, because this is technically kind of normal ever since these two actually met up and teamed up for their first chapter in season 2, and now they're kind of getting more closer. It's gradual. It's not forced, which is something I like, but it's never been stated or anything. It's just let the visuals talk. Because currently right now, is just the comic book stuff, but this is basically where the part of the video where I say you really have to actually watch this episode because it's really good. And what I can say cannot do it justice. I feel like just let's look at the visuals and listen to the dialogue. If you just listen or just watch it, you have two different contexts, but this one is a perfect blend on everything. And it's just like, yeah, just like the episode, just like what the topic of this episode is for these two characters. You have to watch the episode itself, because for me, just telling it has one direction, but if you just look at the screenshots, it's another direction. You have to watch both of them. And I think this is the only episode where my review cannot exactly do a very good summarized justice for it. And then Marinette is still sick. This is 3 days already. She's still sick, but she heard that Mark is basically sad. He kind of already knows that Nathaniel cannot really see him, but it's more like Nathaniel can't really project his talents through art anymore. Marinette looks out the window and sees that Nathaniel is walking out with his mother, because the teacher sees that Nathaniel was a bit under the weather per se and calls the mother. And Marinette, looking at this, thinks that it might be the mother who's behind all this. And she is correct, which is good. And to be honest, normally it would be a very surprising thing for Marinette to be jumping to this conclusion, but let's be honest, she's been around Adrien and knows Adrien's life for so long that she does understand when parents are going a bit too far. And she does help. But unfortunately, this time when she helped, it's not really good. As of course when Marinette says about the same thing, that let him follow his dreams because it's something that he wants to do, it makes him happy. But the mother's like, this is what's best for him. It's kind of normal for this series, for this point. Mark did hear the screaming, just shouting most likely, and it's like, what's going on? Marinette's like, I was trying to help Nathaniel, but I think I made things worse. At least she's honest. And then, the mother gets comatized. I really thought it would be Nathaniel who got comatized, but we got the mother. I think this was a better idea. Now the mother turned into this white knight, which is called the ruler. And whatever that she touches is with her little poking staff, she can just command them to do whatever she wants. It's a similar power to some other villains, but this is more thematic and it makes sense. I feel like Disney is technically reusing the same power set, but just giving these a new design for different people. And it's more of a thematic thing, which is good. Because it makes more sense that we don't use the same villains that we already know. And since it's a new Hawkmoth, it makes sense that they would comprise different people. I don't have the screenshot, surprisingly, for it, but she did touch Mark and just command Mark to stay away and get away from his son as far as possible, and Mark did follow that. Nathaniel was kind of pissed that now he's going a bit too far, and Nathaniel actually did lash out, but the mother was about to attack him just so that he would obey her. Before getting hit, Marinette did save him and told Nathaniel to get somewhere safe by, giving him a slight nod for Nathaniel to actually go somewhere place safe to transform. Now, I do apologize. I kind of realized that I might be being a bit too loud, so I will lower the volume once I get editing. And I do apologize for any background noise that happened. It does have suppression on, I just don't know if it actually did work. We have Nathaniel's transformation scene. It's really good and super fluid, like Epic Mickey-ish. I actually like it. So Nathaniel came to the rescue, or at least not to the rescue, but joined to the fight with Ladybug to fight his mother. And then Cat Noir appears. And Cat Noir got hit by the staff in under 5 seconds. Yeah, I think being a cat wasn't really a good idea. And now, saying that is to basically get Ladybug's Miraculous, since, the new Hawkmoth's telling, her to tell him to get her earrings. But I think there's some words lost in, transmission, because Cat Noir is Cataclysm, must Cataclysm Ladybug, and he keeps saying that. And now, Cat Noir is basically has more movement of a zombie at this point, which makes sense. He's under my control, and now he's just like a zombie. But just here's the thing: I don't know with the command of get Ladybug's Miraculous, and Cat Noir is must erase Ladybug all of a sudden. I don't know how that translates to that, but okay. Luckily, Ladybug does actually escape, and Cat Noir has a hard time finding Ladybug after this. After getting away and finding Nathaniel again, Ladybug basically gave him her lucky charm, which is a rope. And here is basically I think a sports clip, or keychain. I don't know. Also, I realized that Nathaniel does have a name. I forgot. Because just like with the other names of the specific characters for the episodes, it only said once. I kind of wish that maybe the writers could have the characters say their hero names just more than once an episode. Cat Noir finds Ladybug, and while she's technically fine and trying to distract the knights, Cat Noir basically pushed her into the stick, and now she's under control as well. Of course, Nathaniel appeared, and he came from the safe, basically taking the staff and then poking it against the ruler. And now the ruler is under his control. And the ruler is now destroy your earrings. Now, the new Hawkmoth tried to say, no, don't do it, but unfortunately, the ruler is under mind control, and yeah, destroy the earrings, she's free. But Cat Noir and Ladybug, not exactly. So Nathaniel commanded Ladybug to basically throw the lucky charm up and say Miraculous Ladybug. I really like how this played out because it's just very comedic, but it's very smart of Nathaniel, but still very comedic. So with, the two heroes not being in mind control anymore, basically Ladybug gives her normal Ladybug speech, which, to be honest, I do think, at least at this point with the morals of the story for Season 6, is actually really good, and it's more understandable. Just like how it was in Season 3. That's good. And that's a good thing, actually. It's very good. But, better than Season 3 because, it has better writing. So, okay, yeah, I had this one. You see this green snot? Yeah, this has the most animation budget in the entire episode. I cannot tell you why. Every time this green little snot is here appearing in the episode, it takes up the most of the animation budget. And of course, with the animation quality of the rest of this episode, very impressive. Very, very impressive. But yeah, here's the gag. Marinette's sick, and the green snot, that's the gag as well. Adrian was just kind of questioning everything, but every single time when Marinette sneezes, an earthquake happens. And no, it's not because of the miraculous powers, it is just how she sneezes. Now, it's not a literal earthquake. The screen does shake, but but everybody, when they hear Marinette, it's like a jet plane passing by at faster than the speed of sound. But it's technically also like something else, I guess. So, trust me when I say this, because technically power scales can take anything out of context, or possibly using this. Black Clover with Astra with the little sneeze dodging. It is not a reaction feat, but apparently it is. So why not do it for Marinette here? Marinette has basically the sneezing strength of a jet plane going faster than the speed of sound, breaking the sound barrier. Therefore, that Marinette at low ball, her base, just normal Marinette, no Ladybug, her sneezes are literally multi-wall level, which is not really much, but for a human being, that is very impressive. And these walls are super sturdy. Not only that, but it is proven that her sneezes, if she just sneezes a bit normally or just a tiny bit harder, because at this point, this scene, after a little bit after this scene, this sneeze from her basically does blow away Adrian. And let's be thankful that Adrian hit the guardrail here and not actually flown out of the balcony. But yeah, technically multi-wall level, if we're really gonna say something like this, because it's just exactly the same force of breaking the sound barrier, which is technically wall to small building level. Or at the very least, you could just say street level. Regardless, Marinette is very yoked. Not just athletic, but very yoked in terms of lung power. It is very impressive. Okay, we have this new Hawkmoth thing about Nathaniel, doesn't really matter. And of course, with these types of stories, there's an acceptance lesson for the person who got akumatized. The mother realized, and the father, right? Because technically the father has his own criticism too. It's a very light criticism. But after reading it, it's like, this is everything I wanted. Good job. The father knows what's up. And as for the mother, she realized that comic books is an art. It's just like a few extra steps, but she understands now, and she understands that what her son really wants. And after looking in the comic and reading the story, it's beautiful, and it is basically, for her, true art. Because this is technically what art can be as well. Now, I do think that her definition is that art does tell its own story, but it's up to the person's interpretation. Comic books just kind of removes the interpretation part. You know, literature, comic stuff, or manga just removes the interpretation part a little bit. But it's really nice. Oh yeah, before the credits, we get this. And it's technically also the most gayest scene ever. But I really do love it though. It's just very wholesome. Although Mark is the one being wholesome. Nathaniel's the one who's being a little freaky here. But of course, they're kind of just alluding like it's not like we're superheroes or anything, you know? But Nathaniel chooses that this might be the right time to actually tell the truth. And thank God it's not just because it's a dire situation and they have to do it like Alia and Nino. This is just pure reveal. So Nathaniel basically calls his Kami transform. Mark is surprised, and Nathaniel wants Mark to say something because it's worrying him. And you know what Mark said? Mark's like, listen, I have also something to tell you. He calls his Kami, and he transforms as well. And he is just so happy that his best friend, quote unquote, is also a superhero. Just look at the precious smile on his face. It's so cute. It's also the most gayest scene ever because God, I don't know why Nathaniel got a little freaky. But it's like exactly. It is just exactly how the story in their story is. You know, the story in their comic is almost exactly because the two protagonists just kind of show their real identities in a way, just like this. But technically the opposite, but still the same messages just tell. And I really like it. And that is it for the episode. It is shorter, but I do think we're going to be hitting the 30-minute mark. Overall, I would say this. It is a 9 out of 10 episode. It would have been a 10 out of 10 if the animation team did not put in so much animation quality on that freaking Marinette snot booger. I don't know why, who done it, but I feel like somebody has worked with Nickelodeon for this episode and decided, hey, let's make the green snot goo the most animated thing in the entire episode. And for that, you have my respect, my disgusted respect, but disrespect nonetheless, because that is your vision, apparently. So yeah, overall, I like it, and it is the most gayest episode I have ever seen. Maybe not but it's not the gayest thing I have ever seen or read, before, but this is the gayest and Miraculous Ladybug specifically, and I really like it. But before I do stop the video here, I do apologize for any background noises. I'll try to remove them as much as I can, but some of the context might be missing. But you might hear like my phone ringing somewhere in this video. If you did, then I did not edit it out because it was in the middle of something important that I want to say. But yeah, but I think I'll leave it in. But yeah, my name's Sampo, and I'll see you guys next time, but not in a freaky way like Nathaniel here.